Yashodanandana Rajajanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Rajajanandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parira Chakacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parira Chakacharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Satyananda Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Pranam Swaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Bharma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gora Pramanande, Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayan Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatam Vyasam Tito Jayam Yuritayet Nastapreshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan and unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. All right. So today is September 15th, 2024. Today is the appearance day of Lord Vamana Day, and also the appearance day of Bhaktivinoda Kaur. Right. So we'll be reading Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, and Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, and we'll be doing verse 36. Huh? Yeah. Namo Namo Nirudaya
Namo Nirudaya
Rishikeshendriyatmane
Rishikeshendriyatmane
Namaha Paramahamsya Purnaya Nibritatmane
Purnaya Nibritatmane
Namo Namo Nirudaya
Namo Nirudaya
Rishikeshendriyatmane
Rishikeshendriyatmane
Namaha Paramahamsya
Nama Paramahamsaya
Purnaya Nibritatmane
Purnaya Nibritatmane
Namo Namo Nirudaya
Namo Nirudaya
Rishikeshendriyatmane
Rishikeshendriyatmane
Namaha Paramahamsaya
Nama Paramahamsaya
Purnaya Nibritatmane.
Purnaya Nibritatmane.
Please chew.
Just Nama.
Huh?
Just Nama. It's not the end of the line.
What?
It's just Nama because it's not the end of the line.
What are you talking about?
Nama. Namaha. It's Nama. It's not the end of the line.
Namaha. Okay. Can you please chant?
Namo Namo Nirudaya
Namo Nirudaya
Rishikeshendriyatmane Rishikeshendriyatmane Nama Paramahamsaya
Nama Paramahamsaya
Purnaya Nibritatmane
Purnaya Nibritatmane Namo Namo Nirudaya Rishikeshendriyatmane Nama Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibritatmane Namo Namo Nirudaya Rishikeshendriyatmane Nama Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibritatmane
Namo Namo Nirudraya
Namo Namo Nirudaya Rishikeshendriyatmane Nama Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibritatmane. Okay, word for word. Namaha.
Namaha.
All my obeisances unto you.
All my obeisances unto you.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Obeisances again.
Obeisances again.
Anirudaya.
Anirudaya.
Unto Lord Aniruddha.
Unto Lord Aniruddha.
Rishikesha.
Rishikesha.
The master of the senses.
Master of the senses.
Indriya Atmane.
Indriyatmane.
The director of the senses.
Director of the senses.
Namaha.
Namaha.
All obeisances unto you.
All obeisances unto you.
Paramahamsaya.
Paramahamsaya.
Unto the supreme perfect.
Unto the supreme perfect.
Purnaya.
Purnaya.
Unto the supreme complete.
Unto the supreme complete.
Nibrita Atmane.
Indriyatmane.
Who is situated apart from this material creation.
Who is situated apart from this material creation.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My Lord, as the supreme directing deity, known as Aniruddha, you are the master of the senses and the mind. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you again and again. You are known as Ananta as well as Shankarshan because of your ability to destroy the whole creation by the blazing fire from your mouth. We're just going to go to the purport. Okay. Purport. Rishikeshendriyat Mane, the mind, is the director of the senses, and Lord Aniruddha is the director of the mind. In order to execute devotional service, one has to fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, and therefore Shiva prays to the controller of the mind, Lord Aniruddha, to be pleased to help engage his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9:3, Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yani mam namaskuru. The mind has to be engaged in meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord in order to execute devotional service. It is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Mata smritirjanam apohanam cha. From the Lord comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Thus, if the Lord Aniruddha is pleased, he can help the mind engage in the service of the Lord. It is also indicated in this verse that Lord Aniruddha is the sun god by virtue of his expansions. Since the predominating deity of the sun is an expansion of Lord Aniruddha, Lord Shiva also prays to the sun god in this verse. Lord Krishna, by his quadruple expansion, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, is the Lord of psychic action, namely thinking, feeling, willing, and acting. Lord Shiva prays to Lord Aniruddha as the sun god, who is the controlling deity of the external material elements, which constitute the construction of the material body. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word Paramahamsa is also another name for the sun god. The sun god is addressed herein as Nibratat Mane, which indicates that he always maintains the various planets by manipulating the rainfall. The sun god evaporates water from the seas and oceans, and then forms the water into clouds and distributes it over land. When there is sufficient rainfall, grains are produced, and these grains maintain living entities in each and every planet. The sun god is also addressed herein as Purna, or complete, because the rays emanating from the sun have no end. For millions and millions of years since the creation of this universe, the sun god has been supplying heat and light without diminution. The word Paramahamsa is applied to persons who are completely cleansed. When there is sufficient sunshine, the mind remains clear and transparent. In other words, the sun god helps the mind of the living entity to become situated on the platform of Paramahamsa. Thus, Lord Shiva prays to Aniruddha to be kind upon him, so that his mind will always be in the perfect state of cleanliness and will be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Just as fire sterilizes all unclean things, the sun god also keeps everything sterilized, especially dirty things within the mind, thus enabling one to attain elevation to the platform of spiritual understanding. Om Jnanatarandasya Viranjana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Tarati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratatam Sahagana Raganatam Tam Sujiva Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakopa Dhruvyaschа Kripa Sindhu Bhuevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the verse, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Bhaktivinoda Kaur, and then we'll talk a little bit about Vamana Dev. So we'll try to get all that in there. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about fixing our mind on Krishna, and that we need to fix our mind on Krishna in order to do devotional service. So how do we fix our mind on Krishna? And also, what is devotional service? We talk a lot about devotional service. And so we know that devotional service means activities performed for the pleasure of Krishna without any desire for our own personal pleasure. So in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, it says, the supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service under the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So I've always loved that phrase, the supreme occupation, or the supreme occupation of the soul, right? Or the supreme occupation of all humanity. That's our job, is to do devotional service to the Lord. Unfortunately, many people don't know that that is what the job of the soul is, what everyone's job is that. So how do we fix our mind? One of the tools that we use is the 4 regulative principles, right? Some people call them the 4 regulative principles of freedom. And some people say, oh no, those are far too restrictive, right? People always talk about, oh, what can't you do? You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. But these 4 regulative principles are restricting nothing but our illusion, right? So it's our illusion that's being restricted, because all of those things that we're avoiding is what puts us into illusion. It certainly helps. So I found this really nice quote from Kadambakana Swami. He's talking about his Guru Maharaj Jayadvaita Swami. This is what he said. I learned this from my spiritual master, who summed it up very simple. When he was in New York, a policeman saw him in his robes and asked him, what is it you guys have to give up? His answer was, suffering, right? So we're giving up suffering, right? So yeah, I mean, just so, I just love him. But that's true, right? We're giving up the suffering. So think about, like, let's go through the 4 regular principles really briefly here. So no intoxication. Yeah. Are you surprised? Is anyone surprised about what they are? Okay, so no intoxication. So the reason we do this, who knows what is the corresponding principle or characteristic that we're trying to cultivate by no intoxication? Does anyone know? Austerity, yes. So that's what we're trying to cultivate, is austerity, by taking no time. And you wake up, all of a sudden you can't remember what you did. And you say, oh my gosh, what did I do? Next thing you know, you realize, oh my gosh, I went to Las Vegas and I married somebody, right? This is a common story that I mean, even Britney Spears did it, right? Britney Spears did that, like, and her parents made her get an annulment. Maybe you guys don't remember that, but she did. She went out, had some intoxication, and married a boy that she knew from when she was a kid. And all her managers and everybody made her immediately get the marriage annulled, right? So this is the kind of disturbance that can come about from intoxication, and that's pretty mild, because there's far more greater disturbances. We can see just out on First Avenue, so many people, their entire lives have been so disturbed they can't even live in a house, right? Okay, so no gambling. What are we trying to cultivate by no gambling? Truthfulness, yeah, truthfulness, honesty. So think about the disturbance that comes about from that. Oh my gosh, I lost my kid's college fund, or I have to tell my wife we have to move because I don't have the money to pay for the mortgage for the house. Or worse yet, I'm borrowing money from all my relatives and friends, never returning it. Now your relatives and friends they're mad at you. All that's great disturbance, right? Or you're stealing, Again, now it's very disturbing if you end up in jail. I knew a guy when I worked at a gas station, one of my customers, he didn't come in anymore, and he used to come in every day. I said, what happened to this guy? his wife told me, oh, well, he decided to rob a bank and he went to Atlantic City and they caught him in the casino, right? Now, this guy had 4 children and a wife, and he ended up in jail because he went and stupidly robbed a bank and decided to go to Atlantic City immediately with the money and gamble it. So that's pretty disturbing. Okay, no meat eating. What are we trying to cultivate with no meat eating? Compassion. Okay, yeah. So think about different disturbances that come from meat eating. There's disease. I mean, look at heart disease, right? There's heart disease. There's mad cow disease. There's parasites, right? Those are all pretty gross. But then there's also the desensitization that comes with the fact that we're killing another sentient being in order just to eat them when we don't need to, right? So then you become desensitized to life, to living beings. And so that's very disturbing. Okay, so no illicit sex. What are we trying to cultivate there? Cleanliness, yeah. So much disturbance comes from illicit sex, right? There's STDs, there's unwanted pregnancy, there's attachments, right, where you become just sickeningly attached to somebody, right? And then that, we see all the time news stories, right? Crimes of passion, right? People end up killing somebody because they found out this person that I'm having illicit sex with is now having illicit sex with someone else. So now I need to kill them, right? I mean, all of those things, all of that is illusion and incredibly disturbing, right? So by practicing these 4 regulative principles of freedom, we actually become free from all those things, all those sufferings, we're free from those. And they allow us to focus our mind, because a fixed mind is good for our devotional service. And when we fix our mind on Krishna, but also devotional service is good for our fixed mind too. It's kind of a very nice cycle. The one example I use a lot is, doing deity worship, and I offer flowers to my deities every day. And now when I see flowers, all of a sudden I'm thinking of Krishna, right? Whereas before I didn't even think about the flowers at all. I didn't think about anything except maybe, oh wow, that's a pretty flower, I bet it smells nice. But probably I didn't even think that, I just, so there, my determination to serve my deities by giving them flowers every day, that in turn is helping me keep my mind fixed to it, but because every time I see those flowers, I'm thinking of Krishna. So, okay, so let's talk about Bhaktivinoda Thakur now, since it's his appearance day. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was born in 1838 in West Bengal. And he's such an amazing example of someone who used everything in the service of Krishna. I mean, everything. So he worked for the government. He was a magistrate, and he used that position. He served Krishna in that position in one way prominently that I can think of, which was by prosecuting that guy that was claiming he was God, and he was just a cheater, and he used that position to prosecute him at the urging of the British government. Though he raised his family, which included Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, right? He wrote hundreds of books, poems, songs, several of which we sing like every day. He sent books of verses in English to universities around the world. So without him, I mean, we would not even be sitting here today. So I wanted to read what his schedule was like. It's pretty impressive. Okay, so from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., he would rest for 2 hours. And then from 10 to 4 a.m., he would write. From 4 to 4:30, he would rest. From 4:30 to 7, he would chant japa. From 7 to 7:30, he would do correspondence. From 7:30 to 9:30, he would study the Shastras. From 9:30 to 10, he would have a bath for 4.5 hours, and he worked for 6 hours. Yeah.
And we have a second during the schedule. We'd like to
Let me
hear some of that.
say it
So
again.
you can say the videos from 11:30 a.m. You can.
Okay. Yeah. So let's see. So we'll start at, I'm just going to read the whole thing. So from 8 to 10 p.m. he'd rest. From 10 to 4 he'd write. From 4 to 4:30 he'd rest. 4:30 to 7 chant japa. 7 to 7:30 correspondence. 7:30 to 9:30 study sastras. 9:30 to 10 a bath and prasadam. 10 to 1 court duties. 1 to 2 refresh at home. 2 to 5 court duties. 5 to 7 translate Sanskrit sastras to Bengali. And 7 to 8 a bath and prasadam, and then start over again.
Where's that from?
This I found, actually this was just an article that I found, but I think it's printed also in the, is it in the Samadhi's book? Yeah, it's just in, in various biographies of him. So now I'm not saying, everybody has to be up to the level of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but the reason I'm reading this schedule is to show that it is possible, that it is possible to have time for devotional service. And I'm talking to myself as well, not just all of you. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has 3 major preaching achievements that people talk about. One is that he wrote 100 books, authorized spiritual books. 2 is he discovered the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya. So that's a really sweet story, which I don't know that we have time for. And then he introduced innovations in preaching. He wrote books in various languages, and then the hundreds of poems and songs that we use every day. I mean, beautiful, beautiful poems and songs. He also made 3 predictions, which are very interesting. So he said, a personality will soon appear, and he will travel all over the world to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So his second prediction was, very soon the chanting of Harinam Sankirtan will be spread all over the world. Oh, when will that day come when people from America, England, France, Germany, Russia will take up kartals and mridangas and chant Hare Krishna in their towns? Excuse me. And his third prediction was, when will that day come when the fair-skinned foreigners will come to Sri Mayapur Dham and join with the Bengali Vaishnavas to chant Jaya Sachinanda, Jaya Sachinanda? When will that day be? So that happened in 1986. Is that what you were going to say?
I can say it's a fourth prediction.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Just leaving the crowd.
Right there. It might not work because it's not been charging.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur was standing at his house at Sharabi Kunj in the island of Gurjum Dweep, and while looking across the Dalangi River, he saw the manifestation of a beautiful, beautiful marble temple to broadcast the glories of Lord Chaitanya all over the world. And that temple is the GOVP. So
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's great. Yeah, and so these predictions have come true. Who was that man that spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? What's that? Yeah, Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, that was an easy question. Okay. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur really is the embodiment of devotional service, right? I mean, he's just spent every moment of his day doing devotional service, even working at the courthouse if the opportunity presented itself to him, right? So Srila Prabhupada said, we should take it, said Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the origin of the Krishna consciousness movement in its pure form, right? So although the Krishna consciousness movement was around before that, it had been kind of diminished quite a bit. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur really reinvigorated the movement by doing so many writings, so many songs, and being innovative in his preaching methods. So I just want everybody to feel inspired by that and to know that they too can find time for devotional service, whether it's raising Krishna conscious children, whether it's, polishing the brass, whether it's, giving classes. There's time and a service for anybody. So, okay, so now we're going to talk about Vamana Dev. So, Vamana Dev today's his appearance day, and he's an incarnation of Krishna. And so there's a little backstory to this pastime. So Durvasa Muni, who's a great sage, he was walking one day, and he sees Indra, the king of heaven, riding on his elephant. And so they're walking. And Durvasa Muni has this beautiful garland that he's wearing. It's a Maha garland, and he gives it to Indra. And so this is like Maha Prasadam, right? And Indra, due to his false ego and his pride, he kind of fails to appreciate the mercy that's being given to him. And he puts the garland on the trunk of his elephant. And the elephant, he's an elephant. What does he know about Maha Prasadam? So he just sort of like crushes the garland. And from this small incident, the Rasa Muni could see the disease in Indra's heart, which was pride. So he cursed him to be in poverty. And so Indra, he's the king in heaven, the leader of the demigods. And this curse causes Indra and the demigods to lose everything. Okay, so now Bali Maharaj, so Radhanath Swami says this about Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, very intelligent personality. He was a son of Virochana, grandson of Prahlad, great-grandson of Hiranyakashipu, great-grandnephew of Hiranyaksha, a very mixed-up type of family heritage, right? So, so Bali Maharaj, he was doing a very nice yajna to please his spiritual master, Shukracharya. And because he was able to please his spiritual master, he received so many blessings from many great personalities, like the descendants of Bhrigu Muni. And he became so powerful that he was undefeatable. So Bali Maharaj decided that he's going to invade Indrapur. This is where, Indra rules, and with his army and all his associates. And Indra saw this, and he became afraid because he could see just how powerful Bali Maharaj had become by doing these sacrifices and following the orders of his spiritual master. And so Indra asked his guru, Brihaspati, what should I do? And Brihaspati said, he has pleased his guru. He has satisfied his guru and the Brahmins. What to speak of the descendants of Bhrigu? Therefore, time is on his side. There is no use trying to fight him. You will be crushed. The best thing to do is become invisible. Evacuate your kingdom and hide. So like, how embarrassing is that? You're a king. You're the king of heaven. You're the king of the demigods. And now your spiritual master just told you, well, you have to run away and hide. That's pretty, that's just kind of, you're getting knocked right off your perch there, right? So because of that, Indra and the demigods lost control of the three worlds, and the demons were now in control. So Aditi, the mother of the demigods, she could feel their distress. These are her children. She doesn't want them to be distressed. She wanted to help them. So her husband, Kashyapa Muni, told her she needed to worship Lord Vasudeva and gave her instructions on how to do a particular sacrifice. And it's really involved, actually. I don't think I would certainly never be able to do that sacrifice, at least in this lifetime. But she did the sacrifice, and the Lord appeared to her and told her that he would take birth from her womb. So eventually Lord Vamana Dev, he was born, and he appeared in his four-armed form of Narayan, and he had, the conch and the lotus and the club and the chakra. And so they worshipped him with great love. And then right in front of their eyes, that four-armed form of Narayan became a beautiful, beautiful little Brahmin boy, a little dwarf Brahmin boy. And he had a golden complexion and golden hair, and he was just so radiant and glorious. And so Bali Maharaj, he performed 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas, the horse sacrifices, and little Vamana Dev, he came to the sacrificial arena. And Bali Maharaj was so overjoyed to see the beautiful little Brahmin. I mean, he was just so radiant, so beautiful. And he said, "You have come, you have blessed us. Such a blessing you have given by your presence. You have sanctified my life. You have sanctified the whole yajna. Please take whatever charity you wish. I can give you cows. I can give you property. I can give you homes. I can give you an island, whatever you desire, jewels. Ask for anything you desire." And Vamana Dev, he replied, "If you wish to give me something, then please give me 3 steps of land." So Bali Maharaj's guru at this point knew what was going on and advised him not to give the little Brahmin anything. He's the friend of your enemy. He's going to cheat you. He will take everything. Don't give him anything. Bali Maharaj said, "But I've already promised. I have to give him what he wants." His guru tells him, "Yes, you have given your promise, but there are times and circumstances where the scriptures sanction breaking your promise." And he gave a whole list of reasons. When there's an emergency situation, etc., etc. And he gave all Shastric evidence along with a very, very harsh prominent order. You must break your promise and not give him anything. So we see people doing this all the time, right? They take scripture and they kind of just twist it a little bit to make it confirm whatever their personal motive is, right? We see this all the time. One thing I can think of is, some of those mega churches, those mega Christian churches, they're preaching the gospel of prosperity, right? Just worship me by worship God, I misspoke. Just worship God by sending me all your money, and then you will have more money, right? It's kind of a twisting of what the Gospels actually say. So Bali Maharaj, he was very thoughtful, and he paused and he began to meditate. There's nothing more sacred than one's truthfulness. Even if you lose everything, if you are truthful, you have something substantial. You have honor. What is the use if you have so much material opulences, but you lose your honor, right? So here we have his spiritual masters telling him not to do this, break your promise. And Bali Maharaj is thinking, well, wait, no, I'll lose my honor then, right? Yeah, so his guru was really mad. Shukracharya said, "If you defy my order, then I curse you to lose everything." But Bali Maharaj, his heart was in bliss. He had no fear because he knew that he was truthful. He knew that he was doing the right thing. Therefore, he had no fear of any consequences. This is called integrity, right? So if you have integrity, you're going to do the right thing, even when it's painful, even when people are telling you not to, right? That's what integrity is. So Bali Maharaj tried to convince Vamana Dev to take more. He said, "You're just a little dwarf. You're 3 steps. That's nothing. I can give you more." But Vamana Dev, he said, "No, I just need the 3 steps." So at this point, Vamana Dev started to grow and become very, very big. And because he's the Lord, he actually showed his universal form, which is, it's huge. And so he starts to take his 3 steps. The first step covered the lower to the middle planetary systems. And the second step went to the edge of the universe and actually kicked a hole into the covering of the universe. And water from the causal ocean started to come through that opening. And that's the origin of the Ganga Devi. But now there was no room for the 3rd step. So now what? So Bali Maharaj, he was actually tied up by Garuda, and he was taken prisoner. And his men were wanting to attack Vamana Dev, and he was telling them, no, don't attack him. But they didn't listen, and they attacked Vamana Dev. And so Vishnu and his associates started fighting with the Asuras, and of course they won. The Vishnu and his associates. So the Asuras were defeated. So with tears of love in his eyes, Bali Maharaj spoke, and he said, "My Lord, you have already taken everything. You have taken all my land, all my property, all my wealth, all my influence and prestige." He said, "You have taken everything. There is only one thing I have left: my life, my body, and my life." And Prabhupada explains in this regard how it was that his life possessed all these other things. His life is actually more valuable than everything else. So the greatest gift is giving the Lord so the greatest gift is giving him himself. Giving the Lord all the planets that I control, all the gold and jewels and all the money and all the prestige and all my followers, giving them all, that is a small thing. But real offering is to give my life, my body, my mind, and my words. Huh? Yeah. So Bali Maharaj, with great determination and a heart filled with pure devotion, he responded to the Lord with these three words: "My Lord, you may place your third step on the top of my head. I surrender everything, my very life to you." So there, Bali Maharaj, he surrendered completely to the Lord. And so what do we take from this story? I mean, there's so many things we can learn from this story, but sometimes we have to disregard our apparent authority in order to follow the true authority, right? I mean, yes, even when we're scared, like this face I'm seeing seems frightened. Yeah, and sometimes we do. Sometimes we have to disregard our apparent authority in order to follow the true authority. And Bali Maharaj, he didn't listen to his guru, but he instead followed in the footsteps of his grandfather, who was Prahlad Maharaj, right? And he gave everything for devotional service, everything. He gave everything he possessed, including his whole self. So we should aspire to do that. And if we can't do that, we can start just by giving something, right? Giving some of our time, some of our ability, some of our wealth, whatever it is. But I guess we'll end there. And if there's any comments or questions, or if anyone wants to tell a favorite anecdote about Bhaktivinoda Thakur or something about Vamana Dev. Yeah.
I had a comment that tried to connect two things here. Very nice class, very beautiful class, first class. And you're speaking of the regulative principles, and like it's something to be said that, you know, if one is following the regulative principles, but they're not merciful, you know, like, oh yeah, I don't eat meat, but I, you know, ruthlessly slaughter crickets on the road, you know, or, you know, do various types of killing, you know, we're not conscious, you know, we can, you know, there's times where we may need to kill, you know, but we should be conscious, not to be, you know, killers, you know, like the meat eaters. And if we are, you know, not having illicit sex, but our minds are always thinking about illicit sex, thinking about dirty things, or, you know, especially, you know, I don't gamble, but I lie like anything.
Right.
You know, that's also breaking the regulative principles. That's a hypocrite. So it should be noted that, you know, breaking the regulative principles isn't just having illicit sex or, you know, not gambling. It's also, you know, being dirty in mind, lying, not being merciful, you know, not being austere, being intoxicated with all kinds of other things we can get intoxicated with. We can get intoxicated with Facebook, we can get intoxicated with Instagram. We can get intoxicated with, various types of nonsense activities. So it should just be noted. And, in relation to that Vamana Dev, you mentioned this integrity, that's real integrity that, we mentioned this kind of important point that he had no fear. And that's the confidence that comes when we serve Krishna, serve Guru and Krishna, that a liberated person is not scared of the results of his actions like a materialist. That's actually a sign of conditioning that we're thinking, I can't do this, I better do that. Because a liberated person has so much confidence in their relationship with Krishna, so much confidence in their relationship with the Guru and Krishna that they know that they're acting in service to Guru and Krishna. And in that, whatever reaction may come. But they're not scared of that because they're not this body. And the reaction can only happen to the body. So that's, we have to, but that's something that, I'm not saying I'm talking from a place of deep realization or anything, but I think there's something to be said that, from associating with my spiritual master and, reading Prabhupada's books, that as you feel more close with Krishna, it becomes easier and easier to be fearless because you realize Krishna is not just like some impersonal autocratic judge. Krishna is definitely aware of what's going on in your heart, and you have a relationship with him, and you know what's going to please him, and you know what you have to do. And so in that way, Vamana had no fear because he had faith in Krishna. Even though from the external point of view, he was, disobeying his spiritual master, which is a great offense. But he understood his relationship, his connection with Krishna was strong. So that, we have to follow rules and regulations, and we should follow rules and regulations, but we should also know why we're following rules and regulations and understand that, Prabhupada states emphatically in the Nectar of Instruction that the ultimate rule and regulation is always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, very nice. Any other questions, comments? Anything about Bhaktivinoda Thakur that anyone wants to share? Yeah.
Also, another, I guess there's so many details in that last night.
Yeah.
But, another
Bring her the mic.
point that has been brought up is that, when Bali Maharaj offered his head, still at first, Vamanadev didn't accept that because he was thinking, oh, I still have I still own something that I can offer. And it was to teach that ultimately, nothing belongs to us, not even the body. And so there are very nice prayers where Prahlad Maharaj comes and Bali Maharaj's wife comes and pleads on his behalf to Vamanadev. And it also shows how not only should we personally engage in devotional service, but we need the mercy of the Vaishnavas as well.
Yeah.
If we're going to actually be successful.
Yeah, it's so important for seeing the Vaishnava. Hopefully what I'm getting from all of you. All right. Any more comments or questions?
I had something, but I think it slipped my mind what it was. About Vamana.
Okay. All right, well, we'll end there. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.